Hey there, guys, and welcome to another episode of Ask Xterminator. And in this series, what we do is every week I make a video and I answer your questions that you asked in the previous week's video. So if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments of this video and I'll answer them next week. Uh, they can be Factorio related, game related, just anything really. It doesn't even have to be game related at all as long as it's appropriate for me to answer on YouTube. And let's go ahead and get into this. So I'm answering questions from last week's video, and we have quite a few, some really good ones. Starting off with Tyler Ruiz, I've answered quite a few of their questions, which is fine. I no issues with same people asking questions each week. So they say, thanks for answering my question last week. You're welcome. Let's make it 4 weeks in a row. When playing Factorio in multiplayer, how many players do you think is a good number? This is kind of a hard question. Like, this is a lot to just do with personal preference, honestly. But if I were to provide an opinion, I think it depends kind of on what type of experience you're looking to have. There's kind of like a range of players that I think, like, or multiple ranges of players rather, and I think like once it moves from one kind of range or cutoff point to the next, that the experience changes. So if you're looking to just like get some good stuff done and have like a solid goal in mind, and like just build a factory with some friends, I would say anywhere from like I would say like 2 to 4 people, um, like beside yourself. I would say 4 people beside yourself is actually pushing it a little, because that would make 5 including yourself. Um, I would say once it gets past that point, it becomes harder, at least in my experience, to keep a good focus. Now, I have done a few playthroughs before with about 5 or 6 people on at once, but keep in mind that and we did manage to have a very solid goal and get a lot done. Most of these were with Colonel Will and the crew we played with then. But keep in mind, we were at that point, even then, very experienced at the game and also pretty experienced playing with each other. Like, everybody knew what needed to be done. Everyone, just like we would say we need something and someone would just go do it. And so if you have like a really solid team of players, you can maybe go higher. But I found in my experience and from watching other playthroughs and stuff that once you start getting past like 5, 6, 7 players, especially if you get upwards of like 8 to 10 players and higher, things just become really hard to actually like focus on a solid goal and actually have a coherent plan in like action happening, with that many players. So it kind of just depends. If you want to have just like a great good time, kind of more like a game night, like just kind of like a Factorial party thing, definitely you could go as high as you want, but just keeping in mind it's probably not gonna be too realistic to have like some super solid goal in mind that gets done super efficiently with that many players. Um, and then Tyler asks again, is there an easy way for transferring items, i.e. belts, miners, electric poles, etc., from one or from different robot logistic networks? Yeah, so you can do this with a robot bridge, basically. Um, this is a hard thing to explain over audio, but if you have, let's say you have robot network A, at the very edge of the requester, like the logistic range of it, so you have your orange logistic range, the very edge of your logistic range for Robo Network 1, you put a requester chest. Like at the last tile where you have orange coverage, you put a requester chest. And then you request whatever you want to be taken out of that network. And then you put an inserter, which should then be like in the tile right outside where the orange coverage ends. And then you take your second network that you want those items transferred into, and you bring it just before it actually connects to the other one. So basically you have like orange logistic network, one tile where there's no logistic network, and that's where your inserter goes, and then the new network starts directly after that. So then you have that inserter put into a passive provider chest or storage or whatever. But so basically it's like requester in network A, inserter in no network, and then provider or storage or whatever in network B. So that's hopefully that makes sense. That's usually how it's done. I mean, if they're far away, you could obviously just use a train or something, and just fill the train in one network and then have the train drive to the other network if you want. But if you want them like right next to each other but not actually connected, then that bridge is basically how you would do that. Chris G asks, any tips for a returning player on how to get back into the game? They say, I find the early game boring, but I really love the mid to late game. So some people responded directly to his question, which is awesome. And I would basically agree with what these people said, which was, if that's kind of your feeling of it, that like you don't really like the early game, but you really like the mid to late game, I would actually suggest grabbing a mod or two that accelerates the early game or just skips it entirely. And there are mods like that. Nanobots is one that was suggested. I think it's called like Quick Start or something. There's a lot of mods that do very similar things like this. But Quick Start basically just gives you, I think, like a power armor with like robots in it from the get-go. It doesn't like unlock all the tech, but you just like start with power or modular armor equipped and personal robots and stuff, so you don't really have to go through. And then some of them actually give you like items too, like they'll just straight up give you like steam engines and electric mining drills, so you can basically skip the entire burner phase. So there's a lot of mods to look into. I think actually, let me look on the mod portal really quick. I feel like there's actually a category. You could probably just search in the mod portal like early game or quick start or just start even, and you'll probably find what you're looking for. And yeah, that should. There's plenty of mods out there that do that. So hopefully that helps. That would actually be my suggestion if you just don't want to play the early game at all. Dancha asks, what are your thoughts on using multiple lanes with a monodirectional city block style train system? And what challenges come with this? So, multiple lanes of monodirectional, so like one-way travel, I think is like what you're saying, but like have multiple lanes, so but in a city block, so what it like goes like just like in circles almost because you can't go the other way. I'm not entirely sure what type of system this is describing. Like I'm trying to imagine it in game. But I think it would be doable. You would definitely have to do pull through trains, I think. So trains that just basically like not locomotives on both ends. So just locomotives on one end, the train pulls in at the station, and then instead of leaving the way it came, it just pulls past the station and out. I mean, some of the obvious challenges is it would just make the whole design much more complicated, because you have to make sure that with trains only being able to travel one direction, that they actually manage to get everywhere they need to go. I think a big challenge would be arranging your production areas correctly, so that because like otherwise things just won't be able to get to where they need to go at all, or they're gonna have to go super long, like all the way around or something to get to where they need to go if you don't arrange your production cells properly. So hopefully that helps. I'm just trying to imagine this in game. It's a little bit hard. I think it would be a big challenge. Like if that's what you're looking for, then awesome. I would personally never do this. It would drive me nuts. But if you want to do that, then definitely I would say plan out your production areas very well, so that with the trains only going in one direction, if I'm understanding this correctly, it kind of is just going like in chronological order of like what is made, so you don't have things like majorly backtracking. Vivav asks, do you plan to start any Let's Play series anytime soon? I might do another one at some point. I don't have one like right on the horizon. I'm trying like I don't know. The playthrough series are hard. The Let's Plays because trying to think of some sort of idea is difficult, and The Let's Play series just they like I was actually talking about this in my stream. They drop off significantly. So like even the 1.0 vanilla new player series, like the first probably 10 episodes did really really good and still are like gaining views, really good interaction. People seem to really love them. And then once you get into like episode 15, 20, up to where we are now, episode 29, it's like the least viewed thing on my channel. And but like in those higher number of videos. So and that's just the case kind of with every Let's Play like I've ever done. I don't know if it's just me or I mean in general, Let's Plays just kind of drop off pretty hard. So it's kind of hard to stay like motivated to do them when you're doing it and there's just like very little interest in it after a certain point, and then it's like weird and bad to just stop it randomly, which I've done multiple times and I feel really bad about. So that's the other issue. I'm not saying at all that I won't do one. I probably will. I don't have any super immediate plans at the moment, um, but probably at some point, maybe once 1.1 comes out, depending when that is, figure out something with that. Um, I do a lot of my playthroughs and let's plays on stream. I just find it to be a much better environment, um, like for me to be able to work and get stuff. Well, not always get stuff done, but yeah. Anyway, before I go on a tangent, um, Backseat Gamer asks, "What is a few mods that you would recommend for a first mod dive other than Squeak Through and Afraid of the Dark?" Um, Geez, man, that's actually a really hard question because there's so many mods. There's so many new mods, and it's been so long since like trying to remember back what I did when I first got into mods. Again, kind of personal preference in terms of what you're looking for. If you're looking for just like quality of life stuff to start with, obviously the two you mentioned, I would say like man, I don't even know. um, there's a lot of stuff here's what I would say. Okay, this is probably not a good answer. This is probably not the answer you're looking for. I would go into my mod spotlight series and I would just look through it or watch through it and see what catches your eye. I spotlighted a ton of quality of life mods that I'm very very like I would really like to be vanilla, and I've just done so many of them. I really don't remember a lot of them like off the top of my head. So you could look in there and see what kind of catches your eye. If you want something that's not quality of life, if you want something that's more um, like just more actually gameplay changing, I would say that uh, I would say like Factorio Extended wouldn't be bad. Definitely like it's like fairly close to vanilla. It basically just extends vanilla, and just like adds like higher tier belts and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Again, back to quality of life. Uh, okay, so a few that's come to mind is like uh, improved research queue. It's one I just spotlighted. I think it's a really good quality of life mod. Production statistics monitor I think is great. Um, what else? Spidertron, if you're looking for Spidertron stuff, like Spidertron waypoints or squad control, um, are really good ones. Let's see what else. There's so many there's so many mods. I just like I'm not sure. It really depends what you're looking for. I definitely would not recommend like Bob's or Angels or Pied Nodens. I've recommended Crastorio 2 a lot in my videos and streams when people ask for mods to play. But even that for a first time mod dive, I probably wouldn't recommend that either. Because it's just a little bit too far from vanilla in my opinion for your first time doing modded. Um, yeah, I would say Factorio Extended is actually a pretty good option. So hopefully that helps. I would definitely look through my Mod Spotlight series. There's like 280 videos in it. Obviously, a lot of the older ones are just completely irrelevant because they haven't been updated in like 2 years. But I would say like from the last one I did to like all the way like probably that and 100 before that are pretty relevant. So uh, Omar asks, does 1,000 science per minute bot-based factory, is it possible, or should we split it into 4 250 small factories? It is absolutely possible. 1,000 science per minute, with how optimized the game is right now, like at this point in its development, is completely possible, no problem whatsoever. Um, Unless you're on like a potato computer, and if you are, that's fine. And in that case, splitting it into 4 smaller factories would be more efficient. Um, so I guess to kind of better answer your question, 1,000 signs per minute bot base is one whole base is certainly doable. It will be more efficient to do it into 4 smaller bases, 4 smaller factories, just like performance efficiency wise. So if your computers aren't super great, or you just don't, you know, or you've had problems in the past or something, then you could split it up. But with the way the game's optimized right now, 1,000 signs per minute bot base is absolutely possible. So yeah. Fred G asks, or said, well, kind of says and then asks, you have expressed in the past you dislike megabase or belt megabases. Why is that? You just think it's too much work for the aesthetics to make? Yeah, this is basically my entire personal preference. I don't think there's anything wrong at all with belt megabases. I think that they're absolutely fascinating to look at, and just really really intriguing even to build to a degree. I think they look super great if you build it with like the huge bus lanes and like in all this like um, balancers and stuff. Like I think they're really cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with them at all. Personally, I don't like building them because basically for the reason you said, I think it's way too tedious and way too much work for like just aesthetics basically. In my opinion. In my opinion, you don't actually really gain anything from a belt base over a bot base. Like you could go either way. Like belts are actually really optimized now, so it's not like bots are just instantly better, but they're a lot simpler, a lot easier to expand. In my opinion, a lot easier to just build bigger with. So that's me. Again, it's entirely personal preference. I built a mega base, a belt mega base. It looked amazing. Looking back on it, it's crazy. I don't actually even know how I managed to do it because thinking about it now, it's like, oh my god, this just looks like a giant headache to me. So yeah, that's basically the reason. But I don't think there's anything wrong with them at all. Rudolph asks, I would like to play Python mods, but resource spawn is horrible. Do you know good settings or a mod that seems like Training World and don't mix or patch as always? I don't know if it's still updated, but resource spawn or overhaul is like definitely the go-to for um for like generating good patches of resources. Trying to search it on the mod portal. Resource spawn. I don't know, maybe it it's because I'm an idiot. Yeah, so it is being up. It is current. It was last updated a month ago, which is certainly current enough. So yeah, that one is just, in my opinion, better generation than vanilla ore generation has ever been. I think vanilla ore generation currently is better than it's been in the past. And if you want to still just if you just want to like stick to vanilla ore generation, I would say just try to. I would say like set your patch size to like anywhere between like medium and big. I would say don't do it huge. I kind of feel like if you set your patches gigantic, it's more likely to mix. I could be completely wrong. I just feel like that's a thing, maybe. I would also maybe just do the like the what's it called? Like the rarity of them, like how far apart just in general patches are. I would make that maybe a little bigger, a little farther apart. Try to help mixing. Unfortunately, sometimes things are just gonna mix. I've not really actually had much of a problem with that, but I know, but Pine Knows if it adds like a ton of different ores, then that may just be, unfortunately, the reality you have to work with, just due to the amount of things it generates. But I would definitely look at resource spawner overhaul. I'm not sure if it works with Pythons. It should, I would think at this point. But yeah, so that would be my recommendation there. Pontus asks, how come people always build solar parks in mixed patterns of panels and accumulators? Says, I understand wanting to make pretty patterns in your base designs, but is there some efficiency based reason? I never seen anyone building mega blocks of just panels and then building exact amount of accumulators to ratio somewhere else. This has something to do with substations being smaller than solar panels, but the same size accumulators, and mixing them makes the build more compact. I would say mixing them probably does make the build a little more compact. Also, people like making nice designs with it, and the only other reason really is I think it's just a little easier to track the ratio, because like if you do it separately, you can certainly still ratio it out, but I think it's a bit more complicated. Um, of course, if you do it separately, you could have just a solar panel blueprint with like X amount of solar panels, and then a blueprint that's just accumulators with X amount of accumulators that would, that's the correct ratio. I think it's 0.82, 0.7. One of those, I think, or 0.85, actually, I want to say. Um, like the accumulators is like that ratio to the solar panels or whatever. Then you just stamp like one of each down to make your ratio right, or like 100 of each down. But it's still like two separate things you kind of have to track, and it's like, oh crap, well, did I place like one extra accumulator thing down and I screw it up? Whereas if you just build it all in one build, like there's no margin of error. If you build your one little design like in a park, like your solar, like your mixed solar and accumulator park, as you put it, and get the ratio right within that, then like it's just like a completely mindless, like, you know, but like you don't even have to worry about it, because then you just place those down and it's just automatically the right ratio. It's mostly, I think, just for simplicity, at least for me, and people like just making nice designs. Honestly, is a lot of the reason too. So yeah. Uh, this is a really lengthy question. So Windows Agent, I'm gonna just kind of summarize this. They said they had a pretty crazy concept or idea. Excuse me. That they had when he was pretty small and still kind of had to this day. And asked, what do I think about like a unified simulator where basically it would be kind of like the Matrix, but like without all the like war and death. But yeah, so that basically it like merged all simulator and tycoon games together, and that uh yeah, so kind of like a simulated life in a way is what he says. Then a certain tycoon, for example, that you produced video games, that you had to play Factorio or Satisfactory to first manufacture the products, and that had a universal currency, jobs, roles, a ton of stuff. Said it would obviously have to be in the future for hardware reasons. It seems a little confusing to me. I think it would be intriguing. I don't. I'm just trying to imagine this. Like, I don't know. I feel like I kind of like just playing my game separately, personally. I think it's a really interesting idea. It's definitely a future thing, which maybe something like that could happen in the future. But but yeah, I kind of like just playing my games separately as they are now, I suppose. Um, I'm trying to think like what else to answer with that. I've never really thought of something like that. Like, of course, I've thought of like the Matrix stuff and like a simulation and all that, but like combining a bunch of different games together in that I've never really considered before. It's a really interesting idea. It could be fun. Uh, yeah, I'm not really sure where else to go with that. I was not really expecting a question like this. And then lastly, another question from Backseat Gamer asks, do you think the Factorio will ever be made into a console or mobile game? No. I think console is completely out of the question. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Okay. I think it's highly, highly unlikely. I think it's actually the other way around. I think mobile is completely out of the question. Console is unlikely, but not impossible. Um, Mobile is just not gonna happen. At least not officially. Like, I just don't see it happening. I should never say never, I guess, but uh, I just don't really see it happening. I don't see the devs actually having any desire to do it. I don't really see any pros to it. Like playing Factorio on mobile just sounds like an absolute nightmare. Um, to be honest with you. And then yeah, I just don't really see it, honestly. Console, I feel like if it was gonna be on console, they would have done it by now. Uh, I don't think they're gonna like go through all the trouble to do that. I don't know how different. Again, I'm not a programmer. Disclaimer. So I don't know how. I know how this stuff works. I don't know how different like coding and like the Factorio engine and backend needs to be to work on a console compared to a computer. I would imagine it's quite a bit of rewrite and differences. And I just don't think the devs are going to do that. They've gone to so much trouble to make it work like perfectly on computers. I don't think they want to change a bunch of stuff to put it on a console and then have to like go through the whole thing again. Um, yeah, that that's basically. I don't think it's going to be on console. I think it's basically absolutely not going to be a mobile game. Um, I don't know. I mean, Minecraft is on console. Again, it's kind of different though. Minecraft is like a type of game you would just find on a console, maybe anyway. Factorio, although I can't, I know I keep going back and forth. I mean, City Skylines is on a console, so if that can be on a console, but again, it's more up to the devs, and I just don't really see the devs ever wanting to do that. It is mostly the reason. Not that it's like impossible to do, because you know if they can put City Skylines on an Xbox, um, then certainly you know it's a very similar-ish type of like builder, you know, simulation type thing as Factorio, but I just don't think the devs would want to do that. And yeah, I think that does it for the questions. If I missed anything, I apologize. But yeah, if you have any questions, guys, please leave them below in the comments of this video, and I will answer them in next week's video. And I believe that will do it. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, a like is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe to keep up with all the content. And until next time, guys, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.